Hello and welcome back to another week of the ALZ Weekly Question. I'm joined by the Terraform team this week. Zach's unavailable, so we're going to cover something more Terraform focused this week, as we covered something bicep related last week. This week, we want to get into how you should handle your migration from the Terraform CAF-Enterprise-Scale module to the new AVM-based approach that we have now for our ALZ Terraform deployment. So firstly, Matt, should we just cover the CAF-Enterprise-Scale deprecation scenario and why we did that?
Yeah, sure. The CAF-Enterprise-Scale module was a massive success for us with over 1 million downloads on the registry, and it really, really helped customers accelerate their landing zone deployments. Its design was not conducive to kind of long-term support though, because its scope kept growing and growing and growing. It was all kind of one module. And actually the feedback that we had, especially from our larger customers, was that they didn't want that. They had different teams doing different bits, and they might want different modules to do different things. And it became quite difficult to split it up. So we made the difficult decision to end of life CAF-Enterprise-Scale, and we went down a more modular route. Now, this more modular route is now aligned with Azure verified modules. And we thought we can't leave our customers kind of stranded high and dry, right? We've got to have a migration path. But just to cover the basics of this, essentially later this year, August, we will archive the repository for CAF-Enterprise-Scale, and it will still be available in the registry. The versions will not disappear. We won't delete it, but we will definitely not make any updates to it. So we have a migration path. It is a state migration because we recognize that some resources like your express route gateways and your firewalls and your, things like that, you probably don't want to recreate, I'm guessing. If you do want to recreate it, maybe just do it on a Sunday when no one's noticing, right? But yeah, realistically, if you're a large organization, you're not going to be able to do that. So Jared, in fact, came up with a migration tool to do Terraform state migration from the old to the new. And it's that we're going to dive into a little bit more now.
Yeah, sure. So let me move on. So yeah, the tool that we wrote is written in Golang. It's to help create import blocks in Terraform. If you're familiar with Terraform, an import block is for importing state from something that already exists in Azure in our case, but it could be any resource. And we want to do that so that we don't have to destroy and recreate resources as part of this migration process. So the tool guides you through a process, which I'm going to explain in a minute. There's some links here, and Jack will share a link as well to where our docs are. So we've got some docs, and we've also got the tool itself. So there are two phases that we have, which are separate in our guide. So the first phase, we recommend doing this one first before the second one, is to import the management resources, so things like your log analytics, your DCRs, those management resources, and also if you have got connectivity, to import the connectivity, so your hub and spoke network, your firewall, your VNet gateways, or your vWAN. If you're using vWAN, we have both options. Import all those into state so you don't have to destroy and recreate them. And then after you've done that, if you want to, it's optional, right? You can also import the state for your management groups and policies and role assignments. So anything that's at management group scope basically is the second stage. We do it separately, and we do one before the other just because we found that works best basically, and it avoids any confusion about what you're doing and minimizes the size of the thing you've got to check as well, which can be quite significant sometimes. So within each of these, there's a process that you follow, a step-by-step process, which is this. So the first stage is to set up. So you tell the tool which are your subscriptions. So in the case of the second stage, it's subscriptions. In the case of the first, in the case of the first stage, it's subscriptions. In the case of the second stage, it's management groups. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in a second. We've pre-configured some files for you, so you don't have to figure all this stuff out yourself. But there are some KQL queries in there. There's some exclusions. There's some custom mappings and things like that. That's all done for you if you just migrate migrating from our standard CAF module to AVM. But you might, in some advanced scenarios, you might need to go into that file and make some changes, but you probably wouldn't find that out in stage one. Stage one, just take what we've given you, start there. So stage two is resource mapping. So we're mapping what you've got deployed in Azure at resource level. So the VNet, for example, that whole resource, mapping it to something in your desired state in Terraform. So I should say here, sorry, I've missed a step here, which is you would actually set up the AVM module first with your settings in it, and you would have that ready to go for this.
So you'd run the accelerator, right?
Yeah, you can run the accelerator to do it, and that's in our guidance. That's what we said to do, right? So run the accelerator, change, you know, as you would normally with the accelerator, change the names and things to match what your resource names are. And turn things off that you don't have deployed, so it matches as closely as possible, but you will find out later if you've not done something right. Get that module ready, and then you're going to point this tool at that module. Basically, you're not going to deploy that module before this, right? Because we're going to add those import blocks first. So sorry, I'm skipping that part and forgetting to put it on the slide. But yeah, number two is you're mapping resource to resource. So just at the resource level, this ID in Azure matches this resource in my desired state, right? That's what you're doing first. So we run the tool, it does that mapping, it tries to find everything and map it together. And it uses IDs in some cases and names and things. It's got different ways of mapping different things depending on what it is. And then it'll spit out an issues CSV file. That CSV file will have anything that it hasn't been able to match. So you can, there's different types of things where it hasn't matched. Either it's not found anything at all, or it's found multiple of those things. Basically, the two things that it would have a problem with. So it would be either in the Terraform it's not found a match for it, or in Azure it's not found a match for it as well. So there's like 3 different combinations, and then the multiple one as well. So for each of those, you need to decide what to do. You can either fix it in your configuration for your module, for your AVM module, which is the best thing that you can do. Make sure the names match and everything, and then you run the tool again, and then those things will disappear out the issues file. Or if you can't do that, you can exclude things. So you can say, ignore it. I don't want you to destroy that resource. I don't want you to have anything to do with that resource, you know. Or you can actually say, do you know what? I don't want this thing in Azure anymore. Delete it for me. Or the last option is allow Terraform to delete and recreate it, but we'd have to tell it that we want it to do that as well. So once you've gone through that spreadsheet and you've knocked everything off and you're at the point where you're happy, you then save that and feed it back into the tool. At this stage, it's going to do an actual Terraform plan against, you know, targeting Azure, and then you're going to go down to the attribute level. So the properties of those resources in Azure, like the VNet IP address ranges and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's going to check that those things match as well, right? So it's going to spit out a Terraform plan, but it's only going to spit out the part of the Terraform plan that you need to care about. It's going to filter it right down to the things that actually are going to be problematic or could be problematic. They might not be. So you need to look at that plan and again, go back to the module config, make changes there to make sure that things match where they should do. If there's something that doesn't match, then you know, it's not something that we can influence in this tool. So you need to have that decision made that, yeah, it's fine. Terraform's going to apply this. It's going to make a change. It's going to add something. It's going to update something. It's going to delete something. You need to make that decision based on that plan that it spits out. Hopefully, in most cases, it's not going to be anything significant there, right? It's just going to be like minor updating it because we've added something or whatever, right? It's not a big deal usually. And then so once you're happy with that, you've run through that process however many times you need to get it to that point, then you can just run your Terraform apply. So you can trigger your continuous delivery pipeline if you've run the accelerator, run the Terraform apply. It's going to use all the import blocks that it generated, and it's going to bring everything into state basically. So you'll end up with ready for your day 2 operations, right? To continue making updates to modules and whatever else you need to do to your platform landing zone. So that's the process in a nutshell. I'll just quickly go over to the repository. This is what one of our example files looks like. This is the connectivity hub and spoke file. You can see here there's a space to put your 2 subscription IDs. We do support GovCloud, kind of, if you want to use this tool on GovCloud, but by default we
think it works. We can't test it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but somebody did ask for the support, so we added it in. And then you can see these are the things that we give you, right? You don't need to change any of these things. But I say that, and then there might be something that comes along later that you've manually deployed something into your connectivity subscription that we don't support, right? And you just want to filter out that noise. So the way that you'd filter out that noise is you can have this ignore resource ID patterns here. You can just add in like either the name of your resource or the type of the resource, or whatever it might be. Sorry, stupid dogs.
There's someone at the door.
Sorry. This is on my knee at the moment. Apologies, everybody. Okay, professional video. Okay, so yeah, this is where you might want to come in and filter things out. Similarly, if there's something in the Terraform that you want to filter out for whatever reason, you can do that here as well. You can filter those things out because you don't want those in there. We've already got things filtered here that weren't available in the CAF-Enterprise-Scale module. That's why these things are here. So yeah, that's basically it. We've got some more complex things that are going on down here where we can't match on names and things like that, but hopefully you won't never have to come into this section and start changing stuff in here, but it is possible. And the tool has got documentation around what all these settings are, so you can come into the README, and we've got fairly comprehensive documentation about all the settings. I'm not going to go through it all now, but you get the idea. So I think that was everything. I think there was a question from somebody around, do I need to be on the latest version of CAF-Enterprise-Scale to do the integration with this tool? So my answer to that would be no, you don't need to be on the latest version. So if you're on like 3 point something and our latest is, I should know the version, 6 point something, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So you don't need to be on the latest version. You might see a bit of noise in the issues list if you're not on the latest version. You'll either need to update your AVM module settings to make sure that you do have everything matched. But if there really is things in there that are different, you can filter them out in those filters that I showed you before and just reduce that noise down, so you don't have to like mark everything as ignoring that issues file. You can just filter it out. Yeah,
I think one of the things you're going to have to do, if you ran the accelerator today and you compared it to CAF-Enterprise-Scale, we have made a few changes to the management group hierarchy structure to harmonize it across Portal, Bicep, Terraform. And that means that sandboxes, sandbox, I can think of one, and we did something else as well.
Yeah.
So you are going to have to go and modify the architecture you're going to try and deploy in the new world to match the old. Also, the sets of policies we deploy now are very different. So again, you need to start to decide what to do there. That's slightly complicated by the fact if you want to update a particular policy definition and it's assigned, you might not be able to because it might break. So there is complexity buried in here, but we've done our best to try and make it.
I should have also shared. I don't know if you can just put my screen again, but we do. These are referenced from the guide as well, so you will find this in the guide. But when you generate the code of the accelerator, you can use these var files as a starting point. We've gone through the migration process from CAF-Enterprise-Scale to the AVM modules, and whilst we were doing that, we found everything that might be a potential problem for you. And so if you look in these files, you'll see everywhere where we found something like that, we've got this comment that says migration. This had a different default in CAF-Enterprise-Scale, so we've updated it here. So we've done this. So if you were using our default settings from CAF-Enterprise-Scale, this file here might help you to reduce the amount of effort involved, like things like we've turned off the things that weren't available in CAF-Enterprise-Scale, right? All that kind of stuff. So you can see each of these comments, it's worth looking at each of them and checking, like, is this relevant to me or not, kind of thing. But anyway, so we've done that for you as well to save a lot, hopefully save some effort there in having to work out all those things yourself.
Yeah.
And we've got it for both, and we've got a lib as well.
Oh, have you? But that'll be for the latest version of CAF-Enterprise-Scale, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're on an older version, there might be policy differences too.
Yeah, there might be differences. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, just to summarize then, like the very simple approach is read the guidance, obviously, look at the tool, and then run the accelerator, get your new version of the AVM-based declarative like config set up, go through the tool process, resolve your issues, do the resource mapping, then do the attribute mapping. Then once they're all resolved, you should be in a place to commit it, run it in CI or CD, or do it locally if you
Zero
want.
changes.
That's it, right? And I think with that, there's no reason why, and we know that this is happening. People are using the tool for other purposes outside of ALZ. Like, we haven't built
a partner in Australia who had a customer that lost their state file, and they used Jared's tool to recreate their entire state file. And I don't think I'm the only one that knows about that, right? You've got an example, haven't you, Jared?
Yeah, I spoke to a customer that lost their Terraform state files due to an issue, but they lost the Terraform state files, and they're looking at you. Well, they are using this tool to help rebuild those state files because they've got the code but not the state. So
just also put a resource lock on the resource group that contains your storage account with your state file in it. That's my top tip.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, with that, thanks everybody for joining, and hopefully it's been useful. And yeah, as Matt said, like August 26th, we're going to archive the repo. August 1st, August 1st, 2026. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to archive the CAF-Enterprise-Scale repo, so it will still be available, but I would highly recommend you start planning your migration.
Just one more point before we go. I want to emphasize that the thing that Jared said earlier, which is maybe you should only migrate the resources that you can't delete and recreate. So just do the complicated stuff like your firewalls, your express routes. Actually, it might be better to deploy a new management group hierarchy anyway, because then you can test the policy. If there are policy changes, you can test and you can roll it back by just moving the subscriptions. I think that's probably going to be the most painful bit, is all the policy stuff. So because you can do that in a transient way, I'd probably just deploy that, but then just migrate my core resources that I can't recreate.
Yeah, and we added the capability into the tool because some customers, they don't want to redeploy their management groups for whatever reason. They don't want to. So we've given the capability to do the full migration, everything that was in CAF-Enterprise-Scale.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, team, for joining. And as always, if you've got any more questions, please hit us up at the link below. So aka.ms/ALZ/questions, and we'll see you all again next week. Thanks all.
Cheers.